one.
For all the executives and senior professionals out there who might be struggling with frustration, anxiety, maybe even depression, and they feel this intense emotional energy pressuring them from the inside, it's my pleasure and privilege today to introduce you to Dianne Allen, a good friend of mine who works with senior professionals and executives to relieve that pressure by helping them find out what it is that's causing that pressure and mapping them down a roadmap to create the legacy that they might need to relieve that pressure. So Dianne, tell me a little bit more about the type of people who come to you and the types of people you've worked with in the past.
Oh, wow. I have so many neat people I've worked with. And the common denominator of the people that come to me is they're already successful in one area of their life. And yet they have this inner, like, gut wrenching calling, this thing that keeps them up at night, or something they want to do that's bigger or for the benefit of all, may not be money related. And they have this cognitive dissonance, like their brain says one thing, their heart says another, they're disconnected, and they're feeling some anxiety or some depression. And so they're just not, they're off, even though they're successful in one area of their life. So to look at it from the outside, you'd think everything's fine. But inside, it's not very fine.
And in our society, we have so many ways of putting on the rose-colored glasses and making it all kind of nicey nice and putting on the smile and, and especially powerful executives, they have a lot of, they're looked up to by a lot of people in their organization. They really have to do that. But what happens, Dianne, when they don't take care of these internal pressures? Like, what does it drive a person to?
Well, they begin to have what I'm starting to call an empath distress disorder. But really what it is they start to have physical symptoms and emotional symptoms that might mimic a problem, like, they're up at night with heart palpitations because of anxiety, or they have fast thinking and because they can't concentrate, or they're depressed and so they don't eat right, or they overeat, or they start drinking too much and worse, become an addict to something else. And things go south in their personal life, but yet they're so rewarded professionally that it's kind of difficult for them, to put it all together. They're having a hard time with it. So there's all of this searching for what's wrong with me, what's wrong with me. And I always try to say it's what's right with you that's trying to come out. So let's look at it as how we look at it, right? And
That's so
so
intelligent. Yeah. And I know you like to work with people who are not quite at the edge of the cliff so that you can start to get them a little bit more oriented to this cognitive dissonance that they're experiencing internally and in their lives. And then I like what you explained to me about giving people a type of an assessment that helps them really gain full awareness of where they're at, why they have these types of feelings, and also what the relief looks like. And so what types of roadmaps do you give people in order to map them from where they are to where they want to be?
Well, each person's roadmap is different, but there are some commonalities. The first thing I do is I let the person know that everything they say to me is private and confidential and will never be bartered. And that I listen very, very deeply to everything they say about what's happening and everything they're not saying about what's happening. And I try to see where there's that dissonance, where that rub is. Then I go through this assessment that I created that is all the major life areas, and I ask them to rate it for me on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is dead and 10 is perfect. And I start looking for themes and trends. I just have them give me the number real quick without thinking much. Are you satisfied? Satisfied is different than successful, because you can be very successful at something and completely dissatisfied. So I'm looking for where is that person internally satisfied. So sometimes I have them breathe with me, depending on, how they're doing, and just look at where the trends are with that. From that place, and I listen to what their vision is, and I kind of get a sense of where the rub is for them. And then I start creating for them the road. of exactly what we're going to do. Sometimes it's some spiritual work of just being connected with nature. Sometimes it's learning how to have a morning or evening routine. Sometimes it's boundaries, how to say no to the family that keeps distracting you from the thing that's good for you. All of those things. So wherever it goes, I kind of follow that road of whatever will help rise at satisfaction level for that person so they can get relief from the stress and anxiety and that awful, I call it gooky kind of weird feeling, So I don't like to put a word to it that has a charge. So I use words like goofy and gooky and things like that because it makes it a little lighter and it doesn't seem so difficult because it's not difficult. It just takes focused attention.
It takes the right type of attention, and I love that you use words like that that don't have a charge, because it helps the energy to move. The more we
Mhm.
focus on these distressful feelings, the more real and insurmountable they become, and that's when you get closer and closer to the edge of the cliff. So
Yes.
I love the breathing exercises. I love that you bring in nature and perhaps like some spiritual visualizations to get people back in touch with their whole body. I think a
Yes.
lot of these distressed executives and professionals just spend their whole lives only living in their head. Maybe they do work out because they know they're going to explode if they don't. However, living full body and living in the heart and understanding emotions, all of that is just such a valuable service that you provide. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the types of visions that people come up with for a life where they're fully satisfied. And I don't mean you to go into anything private or personal, but what are some of the patterns that you've encountered with this population? What is the world not getting from them when they don't come to you and when they don't listen to those inner voices that are calling, calling, chanting, chanting?
The common denominator, Octavia, is that they have this heart's desire to do something really wonderful or good for the world, good for humanity, good for the earth. That may or may not align with what they're doing professionally, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But they want to do something more that has value, that's longer lasting. And that is what's keeping them up at night. It comes out in lots of different ways. The no two people are the same, but it's always something that is for the betterment of humans, the earth, animals, beings, all of that. And so it's a higher calling. I mean, some of them call it a spiritual calling, some of them don't, but it's that doing something good. And across the board, it's like my job's fulfilling, but I want to do this thing that will be good. And I don't know how to get there from here.
It makes my heart sing that you not only help people cope with these really intense feelings, but you open them up to one of these heart callings, one of these solutions that makes them feel better and makes the world a better place too. So I'm really, really grateful. Diane, are there any final words that you would like to share with this group?
Well, first, yes, there are a couple things. One is that there's always hope, and that if it seems insurmountable or it feels like you're at the end of your rope or you're done, you're going to quit, basically, don't do that. That there is a solution and there's always a way to move your vision forward, always. And especially when you think you want to quit. So don't do that. That's the first thing. The second thing is have a lot of compassion for yourself. That we live in a world that's very unenlightened, and you've been doing perfectly, awesomely with what you were given. It's just time to up level it a little bit, right? It's yes, and all that's wonderful, and there's something more. You don't have to leave behind the things, you don't have to lose anything in order to answer your call. And I think that's what this world tells us, is if we answer the call, we lose everything. That's not true. It's just simply not true. So, we have to come out of the trance that we're trained in and realize that if you have that call, you're valuable and you're worthy, and have some compassion for yourself because you're doing great. It's just time to do more.
Diane, those are perfect words of encouragement. And you're so dynamic and so intelligent, and you have such unique and special gifts. I really do hope that any of these distressed executives will definitely seek you out. So I'm Octavia Brooks, and it's been my absolute privilege speaking with you today, Dianne. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Octavia. What a good time to speak with you and answer my heart calling to be able to share with people about their heart calling as well.
Have an awesome day.
Thank you. I will. Thanks again.